Hi, I'm Luke Williams from AI Today, bringing you all the latest news and biggest industry stories from the world of AI. The AI landscape is evolving, and organizations are moving beyond experimentation into full scale implementation. But this transition brings unique challenges around governance, talent development, and how to measure business impact. Today, I'm joined by Vijay Guntur, CTO of Ecosystems and Practices at HCLTech, with whom he has been for 30 years. With his extensive experience in guiding enterprises through their AI journeys, Vijay brings valuable insights on what's working, what's not working, and where the industry is headed. Vijay, thank you so much for joining us today. Would you be able to give us a brief introduction and overview of your role?
Thank you, Luke, for this opportunity. We're privileged to be able to talk to you. Yeah, my role is to make sure we are making good of the technology change and the shift that's happening. There's probably once in a career shift for many people that's going to happen. And this is significant. It has ramifications for enterprises, for individuals, and for societies at large. So we're very excited to be driving this change, which will help our customers, our partners, and our people make the best of the change that's coming through. This is going to be a little long-term change, and we believe that it's going to be very impactful, and we will be able to navigate it very confidently.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. And from your perspective of overseeing technology and ecosystems at HCLTech, what unexpected challenges have your clients encountered when moving from AI pilot schemes to full-scale implementation within their organizations?
One of the common things that we see customers go through is when they're doing pilots, they have limited data sets and the quality is reasonable. But when they scale and when they infer, I think the quality of data that is required to train, they find gaps. So ensuring that the quality of data is high and it's representative of what we expect to happen during inference time or during usage, I think that is a big gap, getting things into production. The other aspect I would think is people underestimate the change that is required to adopt systems. And we have seen this multiple times when technology shifts happen. And it's a matter of managing that change in a very methodical and systematic manner in organizations and taking people along. So I think those are the two big things when you think about putting things into production. We have seen a lot of good things into production as well. People who have done this right have got their data in order and managed the change well. They've seen benefits as well.
Okay, and is that part, just out of interest, is that part of your job, Vijay, to take the human element along, to take employees along with the ride as well, alongside the technological implementation?
Yes, part of my role is to make sure we can do that well within the organization and help customers also take people along well and manage that change well and land systems into production well. I'll give you an example just to illustrate this. We built a clinician system that will help clinicians become more effective in how they use existing knowledge bases when they are diagnosing and when they are prescribing a course of treatment for their patients. And we've seen that we've been able to get up to 15% efficiency in this process, but making sure the clinicians, they're not very technical, they're very good at what they do in terms of diagnosing and helping patients. But their ability to manage this technology change, understand what the system does, is an important aspect to land this into production at scale well. And this system caters to about 20,000 clinicians across different geographies. So it's a part of the system to get into production is to manage that change. Of course, a lot of the heavy lifting will be done by our customers, but advisory is important.
Okay, great. And that sort of leads me nicely on to my next question, which is about metrics. You just mentioned one there. But how are you seeing the ROI metrics for AI investments sort of evolve as organizations gain, more experience with AI?
Yes, there are a few big outcomes that we are seeing. I mean, the productivity and efficiency that I talked about in the previous case, that is one aspect of it. People are also wanting to manage risk better. So whether you think about technical risks or business risks, especially in financial services, regulatory risk, AI is having a big impact in reducing that risk. So it's a different kind of a return on investment metric when you think about reducing risk for your business. And then, of course, we have newer systems that can change and rewire the way you do things, re-engineer the process to create new business value, which was not there earlier. So there are at least three categories I would think about. One, which can bring about productivity efficiency gains and returns there. Second, gains that you will get by reducing risks. And third is about adding new business value. So those are the three different aspects broadly to think about where the gains will come from. And the investments are, of course, to build these systems, to manage these systems into deployment. Think about it like a total cost of ownership is what the cost side of the equation is. And from there, you would get a kind of an ROI metric. And we are seeing, a simple break-even analysis for some of these builds to be of the order of 2 years or lesser as well, and some a little longer.
Fascinating, really interesting. Actually, I always wondered how that was done with it at the enterprise level. And just to revisit something we spoke about briefly, it really interests me the human element. So beyond the technical aspects, what organizational and cultural changes have been the most critical, would you say, for successful client implementations? How do you bring people on that journey? What's the most important thing to get people along with you?
I think there are two things that we focus on when we want to bring people along this journey. One is the ability of people to understand the technical aspects of it, the business impact of the change that we are making. So preparing the organization by upskilling, building the capability in our own organization and customers' organizations as well. I think that is the first important change, which is the human aspect of it. And second, when you actually deploy these systems, there will be some disruption for sure, right? It's going to change the way you're going to do your work. It's not going to be the same, right? How do you equip people to do that work in the new manner is important. So one, build the abilities. Second, manage the change and get people comfortable with new ways of doing things.
Yeah. And so then does that lead to the skills landscape within businesses evolving? Let's say organizations, are they mainly upskilling existing staff or bringing in new specialists? Or is it a combination perhaps of the two?
Yes, I think a few specialists for sure people are bringing in and rethinking about the roles that are required for the future and rewiring the organization for the future roles. So businesses are actively doing it. Obviously, different customers or different businesses are at different stage of that evolution. I will give you an example of a customer that all of us relate to from their product use, and they probably are the most starkest who have benefited. I'm now trying to try your question around ROI as well into this, is these businesses have very successfully navigated and used technology. If you know Meta, right, they probably invested the most and they've been one of the earliest adopters of not only building the technology, also using that in their businesses. So if you think about Insta, if you think about the businesses that they have in Facebook, where short form video is important, they've used a lot of technology, and we've been partnering with them on a lot of technology that they've used to make these services much more relevant and and so that those systems can be used by end customers, thereby getting stickiness into their business. And their model is to obviously advertise the relevant things to businesses. So we've seen, because they're focused so much on the short form video, whether it is reels or something else in different products, to engage customers better and thereby increase their ad revenues. And you've seen the results of this. So Meta is a very good example of a company that has taken AI and taken technology, integrated into the business, and made a big impact overall.
Okay. And now just changing topics slightly. Something that I see a lot written about and I see it spoken about often is safety around AI, governance. How do you see, or what safeguards do you see your clients implementing to ensure ethical AI use while still maintaining a competitive advantage?
So look, it's been a few years now that we've had GDPR regulation and different governments have enacted data regulations, and many businesses have coped. So the regulation came a little later than when the technology was developing in the era of data and the use of data to a large extent, I would think. So that tells us a little bit about how regulation will be put in place for systems and how enterprises will adopt. You see a similarity that's happening with AI adoption and AI systems, whether you think about the California Act or the EU Act. There are regulations that are coming through which stipulate how systems should be tested for before being deployed, how should they be built, and how should we have assurance processes in place while building these systems and deploying them and monitoring them post deployment. I think that full life cycle, if you think about build, test, and then deploy and continuous monitoring, that's a whole life cycle of AI systems. And there's regulation that's coming about making sure, based on the criticality of the system, what kind of norms are expected, what kind of implementation rules are expected. I think businesses are adopting to this, including our own business, to be able to make sure the systems that we have built are responsible, they are ethical, they provide the necessary security that systems are expected to have. So this is what we would expect, and as this regulation matures and we have systems, tools, and processes to support and people adopt, I think you will see a lot more robust. There's no time there's going to be no risk, but I think you will manage the risk better.
Okay, and my understanding of your work, Vijay, is you work with a variety of different sizes of companies, probably mainly enterprise level, if I'm not mistaken, but some
mainly
small
enterprise. That's correct.
From your experience, how are middle market companies approaching AI differently from the larger enterprises?
My expectation is, think about large scale enterprises being able to have the muscle. The one end of the spectrum is the Magnificent Seven. They are enterprises, really large, and we talked about Meta in that situation. But they are regular, Global 2000 enterprises, G2000. They have the ability to invest in systems, build those systems, get them deployed, monitor them, and all of that. So think about it like custom, and then there is also pre-built, right? Like in the world of COTS, we call them, which are already built systems, they adopt. So the mixture of enterprises that adopt both existing systems and then build some custom for themselves. In the mid-market, you would expect that they will use a lot of readily built solutions in the market that are available. Think about copilots, think about mid-market solutions for HRM, CRM, right? And those systems will have AI inbuilt, and they will use that. They may do a little bit of custom, but the proportion will be much smaller. Enterprises will have a larger custom because they have a lot of legacy technology to deal with, a lot of custom solutions that they have built. So that's the big difference between mid-market and enterprises, I would think. Enterprises would have a lot more custom than mid-market. Mid-market would have a lot of COTS products or pre-built components, pre-built systems that are there that they would adopt. So that's the big difference between enterprises and mid-market.
Yeah, okay. Do you think in the future that all businesses, even from the startup level up to enterprises, will integrate AI in their processes somehow? 100%.
It is already happening.
It's already.
I heard this statistic. Sorry, Luke.
No, that was it. That was the question. I'm just really interested in that 100% adoption. Do you think we'll get there, or are we even pretty close to being there?
No, it's going to take time, but I'll talk about this important statistic. The average startup is supposed to be about 8 people pre-AI. I hear a statistic that is now down to 2 or 3 people in a startup, and rest of the stuff is being done by AI systems that are available. So that probably gives you a sense of how startups of the future are going to be, and then the adoption in mid enterprises or in the middle is going to take a little bit more time. Larger enterprises are going to take longer. So I think startups will adopt much faster. The mid market a little slower. Enterprises a little more slower.
Okay.
To get to a 100% level, I'm trying to
Yeah.
answer your question about this 100%.
Yeah. Okay. Again, fascinating. That's it in terms of questions I had for you, Vijay. Really, really interesting to speak to you today. It's a topic that's close to my heart, and that I'm also really interested in, as well as working with AI professionally. So, thank you so much for your time. We'd love to have you back on the show, and hope to see you again soon.